Ja, und dann kommen wir jetzt mal zum Oil Talk. Hier steht leider noch der John Jeffrey. Ich konnte es in der Kürze der Zeit so nicht ändern. Aber jetzt wollen wir mal über Öl und Gas reden. Und wir haben dazu den Kevin Smith, Vice President Corporate Development, Saturn Oil Gas. Please come up to the stage. Danke. Thank you very much for joining us today. And you see already here the Brent chart, and I think it was a very shaky and bumpy ride. I mean, we have been during the Corona crisis at minus $40 in April 2020 with the future markets. That was a big nightmare. And then all of a sudden we went now up to 110, but even 140, I think, was Brent oil. So how have you witnessed that ride with your company? As the first question for you.
Yes, vielen Dank. Thank you for having me, Joachim. Well, 2020 was a near devastating year for many oil and gas producers. It was particularly hard for Saturn. We are a very young company, and early in our growth cycle, the company was recapitalized and just started again in 2017 and had enjoyed some good production growth. And then 2020 happened, and the value of the production of the company became near worthless. It was a very difficult time for many people on many respects, but it also became an opportunity. Many oil and gas assets then started selling for very, very inexpensive prices, as many companies were also dealing with their own debt problems. And Saturn used that as a chance to pivot and to acquire very large properties. So there was opportunity that came with the downside, and I think we made the most of it. We were able to increase our production from year over year by about 3,000% through acquisition.
Fantastic. So you still believe in oil?
Yes, we still believe in oil. I think certainly the world does need oil. We are in an energy transition, and I was enjoying your slides, and I think there's going to be an incredible tax on the minerals and mining, and eventually we will transition away from our dependence on oil. But currently, the world is burning about 1,000 barrels per second, and that's continued to this day. And that's something that will be replaced over time, but currently what we found was there's been an underinvestment in oil and gas, and that's what's caused these high prices.
Absolutely. Yeah, what do you think in the light of the Ukraine crisis? I mean, here in Europe, especially Germany, is extremely dependent on gas from Russia, but also oil. What is your thinking regarding the world markets for oil prices, for oil supply, if Russia would say, okay, we stop delivery to Europe? What do you think, you as an oil producer, what are your scenarios? How do you see that?
Well, we see it as the importance for energy security. Canada is very fortunate. We're an energy exporter. We're rich in natural resources, and we produce about 4.5 million barrels a day. And so we provide oil to the world, and but at the same time too, much of the world's oil comes from very troubled jurisdictions where there's not democracy, there's not human rights. And I think that people should look at where oil is coming from, and we're going to need it for a while. And Canada embraces human rights. We embrace the protection of the economy. So that's why I think for Canada, we have energy security. Every country needs to find their own energy security, and I think that means by supporting countries that have like-minded values.
Yeah. How do you see the alternative LNG, liquefied natural gas?
Oh.
Do you think that is something where Europe could say, or even Germany could say, hey, that might be an alternative? What is your view on that?
LNG is certainly going to be a fuel of the future. It is a clean burning fossil fuel. I mean, I know fossil fuels are often seen as a negative, but it is a very inexpensive fuel, and it's available plentiful. Where we saw investment peak in 2014, there was $750 billion invested in upstream oil and gas. In 2020, during the pandemic, less than half of that was invested. And we're seeing the effects of that now. The underinvestment is causing supply shortages. It is bouncing back, and it's still not near the levels it was of 2014. But much of the investment is now going towards LNG.
Absolutely. If we look in the light of still increasing demand in oil in the world, despite a electrification of transportation, yeah, meaning e-mobility on the one hand, on the other hand, we put buses into hydrogen. What do you think could be a demand scenario for the next, whatever, 10 or 20 years? What are you thinking as an oil producer? Do you think that the demand will really shrink because we need less, because of all those electrification trends, or do you think, no, it will be stable at least?
We believe in the energy transition, absolutely. I think Canada also is looking to be a leader in the hydrogen use of fuels globally. And so that's something that we aspire to, but what does the transition mean? It's going to take decades, and it's going to take tens of trillions of dollars in investment. So in the meantime, still 75% of all transportation is driven by oil-based fuels, and that's going to go down in time, but there's a real chance for another energy shock. When oil just a year ago was $65 and the experts were calling for 100, there's many non-believers out there. And now people are calling for $180 oil. And that's quite a possible scenario. And so that's going to be hardships for a lot of companies, maybe hardship for a lot of individuals too. So I think everybody needs to be able to secure their own energy security.
Okay. Maybe a last view, what is your view on hydrogen as an oil producer?
Yeah, we're pro-hydrogen. I think that in Canada that we could be a leader of that. There's also obviously many green hydrogen possibilities. Blue hydrogen is basically the premise of using natural resources from fossil fuels to create hydrogen in a clean environment with CO2 sequestration. And I think there's a lot of environmental benefits of using fossil fuels towards that end. Absolutely.
Okay, super. Last question, environmental. This is something, we saw beautiful pictures here of your production sites in the background. And it looks all very green and very easy. And sometimes in the media we have the impression, oh, oil is bad, oil is dirty, and you cannot do that. You pollute the environment. And what are you doing specifically to make sure that you are not polluting the environment?
I mean, these are great photos. All of our operations are in Saskatchewan. It is basically the breadbasket of Canada, mostly farmers. It's very flat plains. It looks very much like our picture over there, not everyone can see, but we borrow the land from farmers, and usually we use about half this space in this room to drill a well, and then we clean it all up, and then by the time we're producing with one of these wells, I mean, it's no larger than the size of this stage. But what's most important, that after its useful life, say in maybe 10 or 15 years or 20 years, depending on the well, when it's done as economic production, we are now responsible returning that land back to the farmers. And it has to be in pristine condition. It has to be, again, put back into production for food. And to that end, I mean, it has to be perfect. So that's our responsibility, and I think we keep a very small footprint.
Fantastic. Super. Kevin, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Just put it there.